Hi, everyone. I want to talk to you about how to get out of your own way in life at 71, almost 72. Sometimes our best intentions will just throw us for a loop, but it's important to recognize that we all have our own limitations, and that's okay. Sometimes, as we reflect on our decisions in the past, we might want to just think, oh gosh, how did this happen? And why did it end up the way it did? But you just have to kind of go with the flow and live in the present and not dwell on the past so much because it can really get nutsy when you start thinking about all the things that the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And right now, I have gone back to a place. This is one of my favorite running trails, and you might see gusts of wind behind me that looks like snow. And as I record this, we are looking at another hurricane. Hopefully, we'll stay off the coast of Florida, but we probably are already starting to feel some effects of it with the wind gusts and everything. But we have to just recognize that the second part of getting out of your own way is to embrace change. And I used to come to this park to run so many times. I had a boyfriend who I lived with not far down the street, and we had met through a dating site, and it seemed like a match made in heaven on paper. It seemed so great. We had similar previous careers, but what he hid, even though it wasn't supposed to have been hidden, is that he had a DUI from drinking too much. And he hid it really well when we first got together. And because of his very successful career, I thought, okay, just one drink a day, no big deal. And then it started becoming more. And that's when I stuck my foot in the sand and said, this is my red line. I can't do this anymore. And about a year later, he actually did die from alcoholism. And it was really sad because I had issued that ultimatum, either you go get help or I'm done. And of course, it didn't go my way. So I had to move out. And the last thing I wanted to do a few years ago was move yet again because I've moved so many times. And yet it was something that I had to do as difficult as it was. And so when you're in these situations, it's important to recognize that change is good for growth and growth will definitely happen. And for me, it was tough being out on my own, being by myself, living by myself, which I've lived enough by myself at various times in my life, so it wasn't something I needed to do. Um, Although you may find that you want to do that and are happier that way, whatever works, right? But for me, once I did change, I found a guy who was so much like me that we ended up together. He was vegan like I was and was self-taught, which is a huge thing that I didn't have to convince him in any form or fashion. And he was also a runner. So how cool was that? And it still is cool. It's not that it's perfect, but um, it is definitely a relationship that is working far better than um, others I have had. So don't be afraid to kind of get out there and embrace the change because growth will definitely happen. And then the third thing I want to emphasize in getting out of your own way is be kind to yourself, no matter what happens. I mean, we all make the best decisions um, with the information we have at the time. And I chose to move to Florida with all of our hurricanes and bad weather. I still think it's way better weather most days of the year than most other places on the planet. And we all have to make decisions that are best for us. And even though we're facing potentially yet another storm, and this has been a record hurricane season, as many have said, caused by human caused climate change. So go vegan, y'all. Um, just have to throw that in because time is a wasting. Um, just understand that you can practice self love with whatever decisions you make, and that it is always a moving timeline, and you can change your mind and change your decisions and change your pathways, and nobody is going to think the worst of you, especially the older we get. Again, time is running out. I had a father who used to say, he was a very successful businessman, and he used to say, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. And that's probably one of the reasons that I have been successful at a lot of different things that I have tried. But I also recognize that that perfectionism could be potentially not a healthy thing long run. If you are feeling like you always have to live up to somebody else's expectation, set your own expectations and learn to live that way and love that way, and it's all going to be good. There are going to be regrets and mistakes. And one of the things I am doing in this video that I have never done in my videos is I am not covering up one of the three autoimmune conditions that I'm dealing with. It's skin discoloration, vitiligo. I have had psoriatic arthritis, which I also reversed down in my green smoothies, and just buying more greens today. I do a green smoothie every day to try and keep the autoimmune diseases at bay. And then the third one It's either Graves' disease, which was diagnosed, but another endocrinologist said no, maybe it was just thyroidism, hyperthyroidism. And at any rate, one of the connections to thyroid issues is black plastic. And this is a whole nother story. You can Google it, but there was a study done about a month ago in October that connects black plastic to thyroid issues, cancer, and diabetes. So when I look around, even just in this car that I'm sitting in, and I see all this black plastic, not that I'm eating it, and that's really, the emphasis on the study were things like plasticware that are black, and you'll start noticing how much black plastic there is in our environment. And so no wonder, in addition to all the stress that I've had in my life, that these kinds of autoimmune conditions rear their ugly head. So I just thought it was time for you to see this. I have makeup that I put on for my face, although I'm getting some light treatment for it, and that seems to have helped, especially with my face and actually my overall body. So, but the things that we do to ourselves, sometimes we knowingly, like with alcohol consumption or whatever vice we have, running is my vice, but we just don't know how it's necessarily going to affect us in the long run. And when these things rear their ugly heads and we do suffer some of the health consequences of the choices that we make, it's okay. A lot of the work that I've done in the vegan world has been to help people make better educated choices about their diet and lifestyle so that they can avoid the kind of cancer that I saw in my own family of origin. Being the youngest, I had a lifetime to figure out what I didn't want to happen to me. So for me, diet and exercise were the two things that I could control, and to the extent that they can help, I'm all about it. Now, my sister, toward the end of her life, or the end of our lives, when we were close enough to talk to each other, which wasn't very much toward the end, especially, she expressed a lot of anger, saying, well, you can't control your genes. But for me, it's always been about genes don't determine destiny, and there is much that you can do to turn off those genes. The whole study of epigenetics is just that, what turns genes on and off. So definitely there's plenty of research now, even though I used to say in my first book, eat vegan on $4 a day. There's no money in broccoli. There's no broccoli corporation, no broccoli lobby, no broccoli study. But there are some things that are happening now as people recognize that the surgeries, the medications that we've been sold a bill of goods on are not necessarily the answer to a lot of things that are completely reversible, completely preventable. And so I encourage you to be your own investigative reporter like I was and figure out the truth about diet and exercise. Even though I still jokingly say there is no money in broccoli, the meat and dairy industries are very heavily funded, and you just have to understand that so you can figure out what works best for you and then try not to have too many regrets. All right, let me know down below what kinds of things have gotten in your way before. Have you overcome them? I'd love to hear from you. And until the next one, gotta run right here. All right.